It's Friday night. It's the preview show. It's the No Nay Never podcast.
Hello and welcome to the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, but joining me as ever is the main man himself, the headliner of the preview show, and that is Mr. Dave Statman Roberts. Hi, Dave.
Hello, Natalie. It's coming thick and fast, these preview shows. We're going to have a little bit of a slowdown, though, I think, after next week.
Definitely. We were just saying before we came on air that I feel like I speak to young Dave more than I speak to Mr. Bromley at the moment, and but we're going to have a break for about 3 weeks. I might have to just FaceTime you, Dave, because I'll miss you too much. How are you? How are you following the Leicester game then, Dave?
Well, it was a little bit disappointing. I think we were hoping we were going to get some sort of result out of it. We've been on a good run, and on paper, it seemed to be a match that we could get a result out of, and we almost did. I mean, it was level with 10 minutes to play, and then caught by a sucker punch and then another goal at the end. So it's a little bit of a disappointment where I think if we'd have got a point out of it, would have perhaps been, we would have been happier getting a point, wouldn't we? Another point towards that total we need for the season.
Flat, I think, is probably the best word I can use to describe that. But we worked well, because the team did get together this week and go into that. We had quite a bit of a bumper session looking at all of the games that we needed to look back on this week. So do head across to the analysis show if you haven't yet done so. George, I was late back from work. This is shocking behaviour, Dave. I was late back from work because I got caught in traffic, and by the time I got back, like, George and Tom had just signed on and started recording a podcast. And I had to just sign on, and I was like, hello, can I have my show back, please? And George was like, no, I'm hosting. And it was like, Davey was doing my outro and everything. I was just sat there going, I'm redundant. Anyway, I'm back now. I will not be doing that again. I'll be changing the passwords. I won't really. It's a team. Well, we obviously have a new game, listeners, that we need to be previewing. That's the beauty of football. One game has passed. We have another one immediately to look forward to. Not an easy task this week, but nonetheless, there is still hope. There is always hope in the world of football. So before we get on to that game, Dave, we do have a small match of a quiz question that we need to give an answer to. Before that Leicester preview, we asked our listeners the following question. Ben Mee played his 350th league game for Burnley at Crystal Palace, but how many other players who have played for Burnley since Sean Dyche took over as manager have made more than 250 Burnley league appearances? And can you name them? Quite a lot of information to pick out from this question, Dave. What was the answer, and did we have any correct submissions?
Well, the correct answer was there were only two other players in addition to Ben Mee, and those two players were Michael Duff and Brian Jensen.
Who got that right? They were toughies, those ones. Did everyone get it right?
Well, no, I'm going to be strict this week and not award the Quiz of the Week title on this occasion, as although we did get some correct answers, there were some extra names thrown in as well, and we were just looking for two players. For your information, Michael Duff made a total of 342 league appearances for Burnley. Obviously, he was playing before Sean Dyche came to the club, and he made his last appearance, didn't he? He came on as sub down at Charlton. Yeah. In the 2015-16 season. That was his last appearance. And the other one, perhaps one that people might not have realised, was Brian Jensen. He was still at the club, and he made 271 appearances in total. Most of those under Stan Ternent from Stan Ternent onwards, played for several managers. But in Brian Jensen's case, only one of those appearances were while Sean Dyche was manager. He came on as a late sub, if you remember. He came on last game of the season. I think we played Ipswich, if I remember right. There was the end of the 2012-2013 season, Sean Dyche's first partial season in charge, and it's kind of an emotional move at the end just to bring him on for a minute in injury time to make that appearance. So he counts as well. But there were just those two. Another couple were close. Sam Vokes, he made 239 Burnley League appearances, and Chris McCann made 238. And Ashley Barnes, after this week, is now on 220. But yes, they're just the two answers we're looking for, Michael Duff and Brian Jensen.
Brian Jensen definitely got me. So who did get it right then, Dave? Even though you weren't, you were being strict. Did anybody get any at all? You said you weren't going to award.
Bryn Jones had come back with 4 answers, but I think he'd included the 2 we mentioned there. He'd mentioned Chris McCann and Sam Vokes, who had made more than 250 total appearances, but not league appearances. We were very specific. We were after league appearances.
Good stuff. Well, there's obviously going to be another quiz question at the end of this episode. I don't know why I paused then, listeners. I thought I was going to say something a little bit more insightful than I actually did. Don't go away. You just need to hang fire till the end of this episode. Not very long at all, and you'll get another quiz question. So do not go away.
Premier League head-to-head.
Let's move on, Dave, because of course we have a job to do. We have a game that we have to preview, and that is Chelsea at home this Saturday, the 5th of March, a 3 p.m. kickoff, not televised anywhere live in the UK. Can you kick us off, please, Dave, by looking at the history of this fixture, please, starting with Premier League meetings?
Yeah, well, Chelsea have been ever present in the Premier League since it came into being 30 years ago. That was in 1992, which means we've faced them at Turf Moor in each of our previous 7 campaigns. Although we've beaten Chelsea in a Premier League game at Stamford Bridge, when we shocked the reigning champions on the opening day of the 2017-18 season, we've yet to pick up all 3 points in a Premier League meeting at Turf Moor. In fact, from our 7 previous home games against Chelsea, we've lost 6 and picked up just 1 draw. That was in a 1-1 scoreline. That was in February 2017. After going a goal behind early on to a 7th-minute goal from Pedro, Robbie Brady, who'd only recently signed and was making his 2nd appearance following his debut the previous week, scored from a free kick to level the scores. I won't dwell too much on the defeats, other than to say that Chelsea have scored at least twice in their other 6 visits to Turf Moor. And so we know that we're going to be in for a very tough game on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we definitely are.
Memory match.
What about memory match then, please, Dave?
Well, not surprisingly, we're going to go back a bit further in time for this week's memory match. That's due to the slim pickings available in the Premier League era. So hopefully we can invoke some positive vibes for Saturday by reminiscing about a home win over Chelsea from a very memorable campaign, namely Burnley's 1959-60 title-winning season. Although there have been several other home wins over Chelsea since then, in the 1960s, 1970s and the 1980s, the Championship season remains a very special one to Burnley fans of a certain vintage. Back in those days, they didn't let a bit of snow and ice get in the way, and although the pitch was mostly white, referee Tommy Langdale gave the go-ahead once the lines and goal mouths had been cleared. Burnley were having to manage without the services of their talisman Jimmy McIlroy, but took the lead in the 14th minute, when a free kick from John Angus was played into the box and Jimmy Robson poached a goal with a close-range shot past Chelsea goalkeeper Reg Matthews. That was the only goal of the first half, but 7 minutes into the second half, Adam Blacklaw dived at the feet of Frank Blunstone, who played the ball across for Johnny Brooks to push the ball into an empty net and level the scores. 8 minutes later, Burnley regained the lead, as Pointer's slice pass ran to Jimmy Robson, who slotted in past Reg Matthews for his 2nd of the game, and this proved to be the winner. Conditions should be infinitely better on Saturday afternoon, but I'm sure that we would settle for a repeat of that scoreline from 1960.
Yeah, we definitely would.
On this day.
Where are we up to? On this day, then, have you got any, I believe you got something exciting for us for our On This Day feature.
Yeah, stay tuned for the end, because there's we come to a climax at the end with a fantastic result, but a linked result compared with 2 other games as well. So I'll go through the results. Time is moving on, and we're into March already. And looking back at the past matches, on the 5th of March, we have 8 previous wins to reminisce about. 3 of those wins were before the Second World War, as we beat Burton Swifts. That was 2-0 away in a 2nd Division match in 1898. Then there was a heartening 3-1 home win over local rivals Blackburn Rovers in 1927. The 3rd of those pre-war wins was a 1-0 away win that was at Chesterfield in 1938, with Bob Brocklebank scoring the goal. After a 1-1 draw at home to Arsenal in 1949 and a 1-0 away defeat at Manchester United in 1955, we picked up the 4th of our 8 wins on the 5th of March in 1960. As Jimmy Robson scored the goal in a 1-0 win against Blackburn Rovers again.
Hey.
Can you see a pattern developing here?
I see a pattern development. I like this. I like it a lot.
Stay tuned then. There was a 17-year gap until our next match on this date, which was a 4-1 away defeat against Hull City, who were helped by a Malcolm Lord hat-trick. In 1983, we were back to winning ways as Brian Flynn scored the only goal in a 1-0 home win over Fulham. Burnley suffered another away defeat in 1985, losing 2-1 at Brentford, but in 1988 we were convincing 3-0 winners at home to Exeter City. There followed a run of 3 consecutive defeats in 3 away games, as we lost 2-1 at Chesterfield in 1991, 3-2 at Fulham in 1994, and then 1-0 at Walsall in 2002. However, we're unbeaten in our last 3 games on this date. In 2011, a third-minute goal from Jay Rodriguez was enough to earn us all 3 points against Crystal Palace at Turf Moor, and then we drew 1-1 at home to Barnsley in 2013, with Charlie Austin on the score sheet for the Clarets. Our last game on the 5th of March was 6 years ago. That was in 2016. It was a Saturday lunchtime kickoff and was our 3rd home win over Blackburn Rovers on this date, and it was sealed with an Andre Gray penalty. So to summarise, our overall record for the 5th of March is played 22, won 8, drawn 3 and lost 11, with 26 goals for and 27 against, and 3 wins against Blackburn Rovers.
Let's just say that one more time. Dave, how many wins?
3.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, that concludes our look at the history of this fixture, Dave. So why don't you bring us back up to date, starting with the present and our scouting report.
Scouting report!
Yeah, ever since we previewed the reverse fixture that ended 1-1 at Stamford Bridge in November, Chelsea have added the title of World Club Champions, following their recent extra-time victory over Palmeiras in the United Arab Emirates, to add to their Champions League victory over Manchester City from last May. Kai Havertz scored the winning goal in both matches. We mentioned earlier in the season that Chelsea had brought in midfielder Saul Niguez on loan from Atletico Madrid, as well as signing goalkeeper Marcus Bettinelli on a free transfer from Fulham, plus striker Romelu Lukaku for a stonking £100 million from Inter Milan. But there were no further incomings during the January transfer window. Tuchel has continued to favour a 3-4-3 formation throughout the season, although in their most recent Premier League game, that was a 1-0 away win against Crystal Palace, he went with 4 at the back, matching his opponents in a 4-3-3 formation. As well as their exploits in the Club World Cup, Chelsea reached the League Cup final, losing out to Liverpool in a dramatic penalty shootout, although they're still active just in the FA Cup following their midweek comeback win at Luton, and have once again progressed to the knockout stage of the Champions League. Defender Ben Chilwell has had knee surgery and appears to be out for the season, and Chelsea's only other injury concerns at the moment are Trevor Chalobah, Hakim Ziyech, Andreas Christensen and Cesar Azpilicueta, who are all rated doubtful for this weekend. Mason Mount is Chelsea's top scorer in Premier League games so far this season with 7, and is also one of 3 Chelsea players to have reached 100 points in the Fantasy Premier League. Leading the way in that list for them is central defender Antonio Rudiger with 108 points, followed by Mason Mount in second place with 104 points. Thiago Silva is in third with 100 points.
Good stuff. Well, you know that we don't like to just let you rely on our opinion of our opposition. We like to bring you an opposition view. And this week, we sat down with Chelsea Fancast. Now, do keep an eye out on their podcast, please, listeners, because our very own Adam Dennett from our analysis team went on their podcast to give his opposition view. So they very kindly returned the favour. So this is what they had to say.
Opposition view.
Stamford Chidge from the Chelsea Fancast here. Good to speak to you guys as always. Something of an awkward week for Chelsea and Chelsea supporters, to say the least. Although we did manage to scrape through against Luton in the Cup this week, which will have helped. But I suspect probably the last team you want to face after a week like this would be Burnley away. Particularly a Burnley, I think, that have hit a bit of form recently. Although I know you slipped up against Leicester, but you've put something of a run together recently and desperately trying, no doubt, to avoid relegation, which I kind of hope you do, actually. But it's not a trip that, I mean, I always kind of get worried about playing Burnley away. But I mean, the reality, of course, is that our record up there is pretty good. In fact, I mean, I remember the last 2 times we've been up there, we won 3-0 and 4-2, which are pretty healthy results. And I'm trying to think, actually, I think that, we've only lost, I think, one game to you recently. Anyway, so it's a while ago. The bottom line is, I think most of it will depend for us on who Tuchel picks and who he can pick. Obviously, we picked a much weakened side on Wednesday against Luton, but also we had a few injuries to contend with in the defence, which is why Ruben Loftus-Cheek played at centre-back. But I would hope that Rudiger and Silva and Mondi and quite possibly Chalobah, I don't know. I mean, Chalobah got kicked in the goalies by Keita in the Carabao Cup final last weekend, and Christensen still got an injury, so there's a bit of a doubt about that, although Reece James could go there, although of course he's coming back from an injury, so I don't think he'll get they won't want to rush him back, that's for sure. But I imagine we'll set up as in a 3-4-3. Of course, the other issue is up top. We're a much better side, I think, when Havertz starts as the number 9. And you have either Pulisic or Mount up there with him. I think Ziyech may have maybe a doubt as well because he got injured the other week. But we do look pretty good when Ziyech plays, Havertz plays, Mount plays, or Pulisic, any one of those. Of course, the alternative is you play Lukaku. Now, Lukaku's got an excellent record against Burnley. I think he's got... I'm just trying to remember, actually. I think he's scored quite a few goals up there, that's for sure, in the past. So... who knows? He may start, but I mean, when we just don't seem to get the best out of him or be able to play to his strengths. So the other thing is, I think we also play better when we move the ball quicker. If we play Jorginho in the midfield, we tend to move the ball a lot slower. We have a lot more possession, obviously, but it goes side to side. And I think the other week when we played Lille in the Champions League and we had Kovacic and Conte in the middle, we got forward a lot easier. We moved the ball forward more quickly, that's for sure. We did leave a bit of a hole at the back, though. That's the only worry with that. So this is the dilemma that Chelsea have. We're either, brilliantly solid at the defence and don't let any goals in, but we're I wouldn't say we're toothless up front. We create quite a lot of chances, but we don't bloody finish them. That's the problem. And if we try and improve what's going on up front, and of course, as we all know, anybody who knows anything about football, it's not just the strikers, it's the lack of goals from midfield. So if he tries to improve that, then it makes the defence a bit more vulnerable. So it's a difficult one for him to solve with the players that he's got at the moment. That said, I think most of the side that he could pick, I still think that we're good enough to beat Burnley home or away. And if we're at it, which we'll have to be against Burnley, then I think that we'll win. But that's the point. We have to be at it, and we have to be patient. Because I think Burnley, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Burnley, as you guys know. I think Dyche is a very good manager, and I know you've got some new players who are looking pretty good. Weghorst, for example, would be one. And I like Cornet as well. He's a good player. So you can hurt us, and you're always going to be very organised, and I suspect quite physical. And I think that often seems to disturb a few of our players when they come against physical sides, and also, it's difficult for us to break teams down that are well organised. So it's going to be a really tough match for us, I think. And I don't think this time it's going to be a bit of a hammering like we did the last couple of occasions. Although I think if we get an early goal and then get another goal, a second goal, then I think that we're in for a pretty good afternoon. But a bit like the home match, if we only get one goal, dominate, don't put the chances away, then you're always in the game. And of course, you got back into that with that brilliant Vidra goal, didn't you? So Burnley are a savvy side, so it's going to be a tough match for us. But I do think that I think we're certainly good enough to win by more than the odd goal. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like a 1-0, like Liverpool did to you the other week, or even a 2-1. So there we go. So I'll go for that. Anyway, on a last point, best of luck for the rest of the season, and I really hope you stay up. It's a fabulous trip up to Burnley. Sadly, I'm not going on Saturday. Don't have a ticket for this one. Away tickets have been a lot harder to get this year for Chelsea because of the way that they're selling them. So it's a bit of a lottery, I'm afraid. But it's a brilliant trip up to Burnley, which I really love. So I'd love to see you stay up, and I wish you all the best with that.
Okay, officialdom time, Dave. Who's our referee?
We've got Andre Mariner of Birmingham. He's going to be the man in the middle on Saturday afternoon. He's already refereed 2 Burnley games this season, as well as the defeat to Huddersfield Town in the FA Cup in January. He also refereed the reverse fixture between Chelsea and Burnley at Stamford Bridge back in November. Burnley failed to win in any of the last 10 games refereed by Andre Mariner, with 8 defeats and just 2 draws, including that one at Chelsea, in those 10 matches. However, he was the referee for a memorable Big Six upset at Turf Moor, as George Boyd scored the winner against Manchester City. That was in March 2015, but this was just one of 4 Burnley victories in Andre Mariner's 18 previous matches in charge. There haven't been any red cards in any of these previous matches. And finally, for this section, Mike Dean will be the video assistant referee this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think referees at the moment, I'm losing my patience with them. So it would be very nice if we could just have a good refereeing performance. That would be superb.
Statman Dave's Stat of the Week.
Well, we know you don't want to leave it there, Dave, because I know you like to treat our listeners, and our listeners know the drill. They expect from you. So please deliver. Please delve deep into those pockets of yours and let our listeners have your miscellaneous Stat of the Week.
Back to its usual place in the show, we have yet another Stat of the Week for you. Burnley have already drawn as many matches in the Premier League this season as we have in any of our previous Premier League campaigns. The total of 12 drawn matches from 25 played so far for 2021-22 equals the number of draws from 2014-15 and also 2017-18. With 13 matches still to play, it would be no surprise to see this total beaten by some distance. Ever since 3 points for a win were introduced in 1981, the most draws we've seen in a league season for Burnley is 17. That was from 46 matches, which coincidentally, or perhaps not, was in the season when 3 points for a win came into force, at 1981-82, when Burnley finished as Division 3 champions. In addition, 17 is also the highest number of drawn matches in any previous Burnley League season. The most drawn matches in any top-flight season for Burnley is 15. That was in 1969-70, although that was in a 42-match season.
Good stuff. I do like Stat of the Week. It's always a good one. How are you feeling in advance this game? I think the common consensus around Camp Burnley is that the wind had been taken out of our sails slightly with that setback against Leicester midweek. I think we could have probably done without having to face Chelsea, albeit at home this weekend. But it's not impossible, Dave, is it? Surely we can, we're resolute and we are stubborn. Could we get some points from this game?
Nothing's impossible. We drew down there, so you play at home, you theoretically got more chance of winning. On our day, we can get a result against anyone. We've shown that against the sides that we've played. We've obviously beaten Tottenham. We were unlucky against Liverpool, a narrow defeat, and we got a point against Manchester United. So on our day, we can do it, but we're going to need to be at our very best and perhaps hope that Chelsea have a little bit of an off day. They are going reasonably well this season. I don't think they're quite up to the levels of Liverpool and Manchester City, but they look like consolidating a solid third place. But they can slip up on the day. So, I did see quite a bit of the match when they played against Luton. Luton surprised them with a couple of goals. Anything's possible.
Yeah, I think there's obviously quite a lot of noise around Chelsea at the moment with everything that's going on, and Abramovich now putting the club up for sale. It must be a concerning time for being a Chelsea fan, albeit it, obviously the sale of a football club pales into insignificance, compared to what's going on everywhere else. But there's a period of uncertainty, and Tuchel himself looked a bit ruffled in his pressers this week as well. So you never know if things aren't quite going their way, and we capitalise on that. Do you want to give me a score prediction then? Are we going to see a famous Dave draw, which means you don't think we're going to win? How's this going to go, Dave? Come on.
No, it's heart and head. Heart says we might get a draw. We could get a win, but maybe lean towards a draw. Head says we're probably going to lose, so I'm going to go for us to lose 2-1.
Oh, Dave, no! At least give us the Roberts draw. Come on. God, listeners. Statman Dave said that we're going to lose. Well, I'm going to say that we're going to I'm going to say we're going to win. I said on the analysis show this week that George Poole cruelly robbed me of. I'm not going to let him forget this. I said that I was feeling like I just couldn't see how we were going to get relegated. I felt very confident that we were going to survive, and I kind of maintain that. And I think we're going to recover from a disappointing home tie against Leicester by winning. I think we're going to nick it 1-0. And it's going to be a Wout Weghorst header from a corner. No, it won't be a header. It'll be like a toe-in from a corner.
It's not going to be a Ben Mee header, though, is it?
No, can't be a Ben Mee header. That's banned for the rest of the season. We are not allowed to have them anymore. There's going to be a header. Either Tarky or Ben Mee will try and head it in. Keeper will save it, or it'll bounce off somebody, and Weghorst will just toe it into back at net.
Do we think Ben Mee's going to be playing? Because looking at the press conference today, Sean Dyche came out with the usual Ben Mee's touch and go. So we know what that means, don't we?
Out for 3 months. Yeah, out for 3 months. We'll see you in 3 months' time. I'm assuming, did he apologise? I haven't seen his press conference yet. I'm going to listen to it after this recording. But am I to assume that he apologised profusely for dropping Jay and starting Cornet, and he's going to rectify that on Saturday and start with Jay?
Nothing as many words, no.
I see. He hasn't got my vision. Okay, listeners, you know the drill by now. You know exactly what we need from you at this stage of the preview show. We want the score, the scorers, and how they score. You can tweet us at NoNayNever. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook page, or you can drop us an email at previewshow@nonaynever.net.
Fantasy Premier League update.
Dave, moving on. Second half of the show. Give me some FPL news, please. I believe we have just finished game week 27. So come on, hit us up with some news, please.
Yeah, we did. Burnley's match against Leicester was the final match of game week 27, which means we can give some table updates. It's fortunate with the timings. So first of all, for the main league table, I can update you with the news of the latest top 5, including a brand new leader following the conclusion of game week 27. We have got in 5th place a climber. That's Tall Paul on 1,752 points. A non-mover in 4th is Chris Horner on 1,758. And then it's close again at the top. We've got Jacob Sapwell down to 3rd. He's on 1,768. We've got Luke Lambert down to 2nd on 1,769. And we've got Say, a.k.a. Eric, who is on 1,774. That's our leader at the top by just a narrow lead of 5 points.
Ooh, it's getting close. It's getting close. I also believe we can probably give us some February Man of the Munch. Man of the Munch? Hang on a minute. What on earth was that? February Man of the Munch.
That's one for the outtakes.
I can't even explain that, listeners. I know sometimes I trip over my words because I speak too fast and I get a bit giddy. But Man of the Munch, I don't know what that means. Dave, what I meant to say was I believe that we have concluded our February Manager of the Month competition. Please rescue this awful situation I found myself in and deflect us with some news.
We have indeed. I can put our listeners out of their misery and tell them who the top 5 are. In 5th place was Jason McKenna. We've had a guest on the show previously a couple of times. He was on 350 points. Actually, joint 4th because Patrick Hallinan was also on 350 for February. We then had again joint 2nd. Dan Statham and Ursay Eric again on 367. But the winner, outright winner for February was Jens Turfing, 378 points, 11 ahead of everyone else, is our February Manager of the Month. Excellent.
Well, we have a little bit of an appeal for February Manager, Manager of the Month, generally speaking. We have given out August, September, October, November, December, January, February. That's now 7 Manager of the Month awards. And I am holding in my hand just 2 envelopes to award No Nay Never stickers that are going out in the post tomorrow. 1 to Andrew Smith, 1 to Adam Dennett. That means we've got 5 more managers who need to get in touch with us with their contact details, please. Now, Dave, you think that you have found most of them, don't you?
Yes, we need to do some digging to try and find details of who our other manager of the month are. I think we've got Andrew Smith already.
Yeah,
We've
we've
got
got
his
him.
sticker out to him. We know Adam's got his. And the other winners were, just to run through them, we had Adam Major, Paul Gibson, Brodie Robinson, and obviously Jens Turf in the latest one. I think we've got Twitter handles for all of those apart from Paul Gibson. So we'll send some tweets out as well and hopefully get your stickers to you for being manager of the month.
Yes, please do. It's a lovely sticker. And we would like to hear from you. It'd just be very nice to be able to give you a little prize. Now, let's move on away from. I feel like I'm going to say it again. Manager of the Munch, as we're now going to call it. We've obviously got to go again. There's obviously been no change, I suspect, in our separate podcast and mini league because blah 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 blah. So let's just look at team of the week instead for game week 27, please, Dave.
Yeah, we can bring you back up to date with another team of the week, and here are the best performing players for game week 27. Despite it being a double game week for Burnley players and lots of managers bringing in Burnley players and captaining Burnley players, there isn't actually any representation in the team of the week this time. But I can reveal the team of 11 players would have earned you 126 points, excluding captain points or bonus chips. And the players were in a 5-3-2 formation. We had Watford's Ben Foster in goal. We had a back five of Doherty, Cash, Shah, Mings, and Walker-Peters. We had West Ham, Southampton, Crystal Palace midfield with Souček, Romeu, and Schlupp. And our forwards were Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane. That was the team. The highest scoring player was Spurs defender Matt Doherty. Had a fantastic week. He'd only scored 11 points all season prior to the weekend, but added a further 18 points to his tally. That was thanks to a goal, an assist, a clean sheet, plus 3 bonus points in their 4-0 away win against Leeds United at Ellen Road.
So what do we need to look at now? We're going to look ahead. Game week 28 includes some midweek games, doesn't it? Including 3, I think, on Thursday, the 10th of March, which is next week, obviously. So that means we'll probably have to miss out on our regular FPL updates when we record our next preview show, which is obviously going to be for our vital away game at Brentford, which I'm already terrified about. But before that, and as promised, before I go on to that, I'll do something else. What are we going to do then, Dave? Because will we be able to get an FPL update in before we have that 3-week break? We won't, will we?
No.
So it's going to be like 4 weeks before we get any FPL updates. Right, we'll try. I think we'll try something a little bit different in that break when we're off the preview show for 3 weeks.
An FPL special.
We'll either do an FPL. Yeah, we'll do an FPL special. I think. I think that's the way to do it. Once we've got them done, let's just get some stuff out there and do an FPL session, and maybe invite some listeners on as well. We'll have an FPL party. How does that sound?
We can do it after the game, after the following week. Yeah, after the Southampton, what would have been the Southampton game.
Yeah.
There'll be a partial game week that week. Maybe after that week, which will be the sort of break before the internationals, we'll then have an up-to-date table. It will take into account both weeks of the FPL, and we can throw some other stuff in there as well. That'd be
Let's
do
different. That. That'll be fun. You'll be missing us all by then, listeners. So yeah, we'll have an FPL party. Done. It's a date.
Statman Dave's quiz question.
Well, before we disappear for another and sign off another one, Dave, we have a quiz question. What have you decided to set for our listeners this week, please?
This week's quiz question is a Chelsea-related one. Prior to this weekend, which players scored for Burnley the last time the Clarets beat Chelsea at Turf Moor, and what was the year?
Oh, goodness me. That's a stinker, as always. Well, I'm going to submit my answer straight after recording, Dave. Why don't you tell our listeners how they can submit their answers, please, be it correct or incorrect?
You can get in touch with us to let us know the answer using any of these methods. You can tweet us or send us a direct message on Twitter. That's @NoNayNever on Twitter. You can email us. That's previewshow@noNayNever.net. Or you can also reply to the post of this preview show on either the No Nay Never Facebook page or on YouTube.
Good stuff. And we will reveal the correct answer at the start of our Brentford preview show. But finally, to finish us off properly, do we have any community news, please?
Oh, quite a little bit this week, yes. This week, friend of the show, Jordan North, who was our guest on a No Nay Never special interview, that was back in October 2020, he's rowing home from London to Burnley along 100 miles of canals over 5 days. That's in aid of Comic Relief. That challenge is due to be completed this Friday, but you can support the cause by visiting comicrelief.com/Jordan to make a donation and add to the incredible total, which has already topped £250,000. Since our last preview show, there's been another change to our Premier League match schedule, as we've mentioned already. Southampton beat West Ham in the last 16 of the FA Cup, and as a consequence of this, our home game against the Saints, which was originally scheduled for FA Cup quarter-finals weekend, the 19th of March, now needs to be rearranged. There are a couple of other matches that still need to be rearranged as well. We've got our away match against Villa and also a home match against Everton. So 3 more Burnley games to be squeezed in sometime. We don't think anything's going to happen before the international break. That'd be too soon. So it's going to be sometime after that. And I guess they're probably all going to be midweek games. So we're going to have a busy time after the international break as well. Also, this Saturday afternoon, the London Clarets will be manning the collection points around Turf Moor between 1 p.m. and 2:40 p.m. for anyone who is able to bring a tin for the bin. The Burnley FC Community Kitchen Food Bank collection points were positioned around Turf Moor to accept donations of tinned items, other packets of dried food, tea bags, instant coffee, UHT milk and fruit juice, and all donations are gratefully accepted to help those in Burnley in the most need.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely superb initiative. So do please bring a tin for the bin. That would be greatly appreciated. Well, that's all we've got time for this particular preview show. My thanks as ever go to everybody who has contributed to make this possible. First of all, to Chelsea Fancast for their opposition view, and also thank you to Adam Dennett for going on their podcast, which meant they're coming out. So yeah, that was useful. Turf Moor Stadium announcer Dominic Walker for his specially recorded preview show announcements, to producer Matt, our MVP, and of course Dave Statman Roberts for researching our preview show episodes and getting all of your loved stats all in one place. Last but by no means least, you, the listener, for downloading and listening to this podcast. Your support is so very much appreciated, and we would not be here without you. We will be back on Tuesday in the analysis show to look back on what will hopefully be a Chelsea win. And Dave and I will be back next week for a regular Friday night preview show looking ahead at that Brentford game. Keep cool, Clarets. 13 games to go, probably 6 wins needed. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. So do take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and we will see you soon. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the preview show brought to you by the No Nay Never podcast. Until next time.